At the wedding, my fiancé slipped a ring onto his childhood best friend's finger in front of everyone. The room fell silent for a heartbeat. He held the microphone, his voice soft. When we were kids playing house, I promised I'd marry you. This ring is me making good on that promise. His childhood friend covered her mouth, laughing as tears pricked her eyes, and slowly held out her hand. He bowed his head and slid the ring down her knuckle. The wedding officiant scrambled to smooth things over. This is just sibling love. Don't mind it. Bride. A murmur rippled through the crowd instantly, but neither of them paid any attention. My fiancé looked at her, his eyes crinkling with joy, and reached up to ruffle her hair. I stood 2 steps away, feeling like a complete fool. After a long moment, he finally turned around. He walked over to me, dropped to one knee, pulled another ring box out of his pocket, and held it up to my face. Charlotte, will you marry me? I stepped back. No. My fiancé froze mid-knee. He stared up at me, the ring box still open, the diamond glinting harshly under the stage lights. He looked like he hadn't heard me. His lips moved twice before he managed to squeeze out a single sentence. What did you say? I lifted the hem of my wedding dress and stepped back 2 more steps. I said, no, you two are perfect for each other. You already put the ring on her. The officiant's here, and all our friends and family are in the audience. Why don't I go sit down and enjoy the banquet while you two finish the wedding? The smile on the childhood friend's face vanished instantly. She panicked and started yanking the ring off her finger, hurrying toward me. It's not what you think. It was just a childhood. I don't need an explanation. I held up a hand to cut her off. My fiancé jumped to his feet, gold confetti sticking to his knees, and tried to grab my hand. I stepped aside. Charlotte, listen to me. It was just a joke. She's like a sister to me. I've watched her grow up since we were little. Then marry her. I cut him off. He didn't look at me. Instead, he glanced over at the childhood friend standing beside him, his gaze lingering on her face for a full second. My mother's face turned purple with rage. She stormed up to the stage and pointed a finger directly at my fiancé's nose. Liam, do you think our family has no one to stand up for us? Liam quickly turned and bowed his head. Aunt Martha. It's really not. Don't call me aunt. My father followed her onto the stage. Our daughter stood here today, in front of 600 guests. And you humiliated her like this. What right do you have to call me anything? Liam's mother couldn't stay seated any longer. She hiked up her dress and ran onto the stage. Her face flushed bright red, and grabbed my mother's arm. Martha, Martha. Listen to me. It was just a silly joke between the kids. Riley's been following Liam around since they were babies. It's purely sibling affection. Nothing more. My mother yanked her arm away. Sibling affection requires putting a ring on her at the wedding. Should we give them the honeymoon suite too? Liam's mother's face darkened instantly. She pressed her lips into a tight line and stepped in front of the stage, lowering her voice. Aren't you overreacting? It was just a small hiccup in the ceremony. The officiant already smoothed it over. You smoothed it over. But I can't. My mother grabbed my wrist so hard I could feel her nails digging into my bones. Let's go. My father stood behind us, pushing aside the groomsmen who tried to block our way. We'd barely reached the side of the stage when Liam's father stepped in front of us, having circled around from the back. If you're calling off the wedding, return the traditional bride price payment. The entire room went dead silent. Liam's cousin Tiffany was filming the whole thing on her phone, holding it so close it was almost touching our faces. My father let go of my hand and stepped forward. Move. Liam's father didn't budge. Did I stutter? The wedding's off. So you owe us the money. No one leaves here until we get it back. I looked at my fiancé. He stood a few feet away, still holding the diamond ring, his face a mask of panic and urgency. But what came out of his mouth was, Charlotte, don't do this. Can't we talk this out? It's just a small misunderstanding. You call this a small misunderstanding? I stared at him. He stared back, his Adam's apple bobbing up and down, and actually nodded. The childhood friend ran up behind us, clutching the ring she'd just pulled off her finger. and held it out to me. Charlotte. I took it off. It really was just a silly childhood promise. If you don't like it, I'll never see him again. Her eyes filled with tears again by the end of her sentence. Someone in the audience whispered, "She already apologized. Isn't that enough?" Liam's mother jumped on the comment immediately. Exactly. It was just a ring. Our families have been close for years. We were actually planning to set them up anyway. Your daughter just got in the way. She cut herself off mid-sentence. But I heard every word. So did my mother. What did you say? Liam's mother lifted her chin. Dropping all pretense. I said what I said. Liam and Riley grew up together. Our parents already agreed they'd get married. Your daughter just inserted herself into their lives. Then why didn't you say so earlier? I threw my bridal bouquet on the ground. Petals scattered everywhere. Red and white rolling across the stage floor. If you'd told me sooner, I wouldn't have shown up today to be your side character. Liam panicked, yanking his mother behind him and shouting at me, "Charlotte, my mom's just upset and talking nonsense. Don't listen to her." I didn't look at him. I stared directly at his mother. "Aunt Linda, was what you just said true?" She turned her face away and said nothing. Tiffany muttered under her breath, "She's being so unreasonable." My father glanced back at her, then turned around and slowly pulled his phone out of his suit jacket pocket. "The bride price was $200,000. I can transfer it to you right now." Liam's father's eyes lit up, and he pulled out his phone. "Waiting. Since you're demanding the bride price back, you'll need to return our daughter's dowry as well." My father's voice was quiet, but the entire banquet hall went so silent you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. Liam's father's smile froze on his face. "Dowry? What dowry?" My mother wiped the corner of her eye and let out a cold laugh. "Don't play dumb. Our daughter's dowry includes a $30,000 car and $50,000 in cash. Do the math." Liam's mother's face turned white as a sheet. My father held up his phone again. "Either return the money, or I call the police right now. Your choice." Liam's father flew into a rage, the veins in his neck bulging. "What do you mean? Call the police? What for?" "Fraud." My father said the two words with the gravity of a judge passing sentence. Liam panicked, rushing between the two families. "Uncle Robert, Aunt Martha, this is unnecessary. Let me talk to Charlotte. We can work this out between us." "There's nothing to work out." I pulled the veil off my head and shoved it into his hands. "You wanted to make good on your promise to her. I'm giving you my blessing." Liam's mother tugged on his sleeve from behind. "Forget it. We don't want the bride price back anyway. Let's just end this." My mother laughed bitterly. "You think you get to decide what happens now? If you don't return our dowry, we're calling the police." Liam's father, seeing we weren't bluffing, softened his tone. "Don't call the police. Let's talk this through. We never said we wouldn't return the dowry. Then write an IOU." My father never beat around the bush. He snatched a pen from one of the groomsmen, grabbed a blank sheet of paper from the guest book table, and slammed it down on the nearest table. "Right." Liam's father's face turned green. Liam walked over to the table, picked up the pen, his hand shaking so badly he could barely hold it, and scrawled the IOU on the paper in messy handwriting. His father's face turned purple and he tried to stop him, but Liam pushed him away. When he finished, he looked up at me. "Charlotte, I wrote it. Can you?" I didn't promise you anything. I turned and walked away. I walked out of the hotel, leaving the entire mess behind me. My mother patted my back, her voice trembling. "Come on. Let's go get something to eat. You haven't had a bite since this morning." We went to a rice porridge diner across the street from the hotel. My mother ordered 3 bowls of porridge and a plate of steamed dumplings. My father didn't touch his food the entire time. He just stared at me. It wasn't until I put down my bowl that he spoke. "After we finish eating, we're going to the apartment to get your things." We left the diner after I'd eaten half a bowl. My parents' faces were still grim. My mother wiped her mouth with a napkin, and her eyes filled with tears again. My father pushed his bowl of porridge toward her. "Eat first. You need your strength to move the stuff." I put down my spoon and looked at them. "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I embarrassed you today. Embarrassed us. My father set his chopsticks down. The ones who should be apologizing are the Liams. Not you. My mother wiped her tears and forced a smile. Exactly. You did the right thing. If you'd put up with that today, you'd never hold your head up in their family again. I didn't say anything else. I finished the last few bites of my porridge and paid the bill. The apartment was in a new luxury complex in Midtown. Liam's parents had paid the down payment. It was in his name. But we'd split the cost of the renovations and furniture. All my clothes, cosmetics, important documents, and the family heirloom gold jewelry set my mother had given me as part of my dowry were inside. I had to get those things back. We hailed a taxi and headed for the apartment. On the way, my mother kept muttering about the gold jewelry set. How it had been passed down from her grandmother to her, and how she'd never forgive herself if it got lost. My father sat in the front seat, silent, but his knuckles were white where he gripped his phone. In the elevator, my mother tried to calm herself down, saying we shouldn't argue with the Liams, just grab our things and leave. I nodded, but when we got to the door and I pressed my finger to the lock, nothing happened. I tried again, still nothing. The fingerprint lock flashed red and buzzed twice. I froze for a second. Then tried the passcode. My birthday. Wrong. Liam's birthday. Wrong. Our anniversary. Still wrong. My father frowned and pulled out his phone to call Liam. It rang twice. Then went to voicemail. He called again. It went straight to voicemail. My mother panicked and started banging on the door. Liam. Liam. Open the door. We heard movement inside. The sound of slippers on the floor. Getting closer. The door opened. It wasn't Liam. It was his mother. Linda was wearing a housecoat. She looked at us. Not a hint of surprise on her face. In fact, she was smiling, like she'd been waiting for us. Well, look who's here. My mother pushed past her. My daughter's things are inside. Let us get them. Linda didn't move. Instead, she pulled the door narrower, blocking the entrance with her body. What things? Don't play dumb. Her clothes, jewelry, documents, everything's in there. Linda let out a soft laugh. Are those really your daughter's things? My mother froze. I stood behind her. And everything clicked into place. They'd changed the passcode. The Liams had moved in early. They'd planned this all along. My father's voice came from behind me. What do you mean by that? Linda crossed her arms over her chest, completely blocking the doorway. Nothing much. Just making things clear. Your daughter called off the wedding out of nowhere and humiliated our family in front of everyone today. And now you want to come back and take your things. She paused. Fine. But you leave the dowry here. My mother's face turned white. That's our dowry. How dare you? Your dowry. Linda laughed. Who was the dowry for? It was for my son's wedding. If the wedding's off, the dowry stays to compensate us for our losses. My father pushed the door open with one hand. Move. Linda stumbled back a step, but immediately pushed forward again, raising her voice. You pushed me. Are you going to hit me now? She turned and shouted into the apartment. Frank. Come out. They're trying to attack me. Liam's father walked out of the living room in his pajamas, holding a cup of tea. He sauntered over and stood behind Linda. I told you. You can take your things if you agree to leave the dowry here. His eyes swept over me from head to toe. Charlotte, let me be honest with you. What you did today ruined Liam's reputation. What are our friends and family going to think of him? You can't just call off a wedding like that and ruin someone's life. I stared at him, saying nothing. He continued. No dowry. No things. My father pointed a finger at them. This is unlawful detainment of personal property. Unlawful detainment. Frank blew on his tea. This is the wedding apartment. Everything in here was bought by both families. Who's to say what's yours and what's ours? My mother was shaking with rage. She pulled out her phone to call the police. Before she could dial, Liam walked out of the bedroom. He walked to the door, his eyes skipping over my parents and landing directly on me. Charlotte, did you even think about how I felt when you said those things on stage? I stared at him. He went on. Riley's just a friend I've known my whole life. There's nothing between us. But you humiliated me in front of 600 people. How am I supposed to face my parents? How am I supposed to face our friends and family? You embarrassed the entire Liam family today. Do you understand that? My mother couldn't take it anymore. We embarrassed you. What about when you put that ring on your little friend's finger? Wasn't that embarrassing? Liam frowned. Aunt Martha. It was just a silly joke from when we were kids. She was crying. What was I supposed to do? Not comfort her. Then why didn't you comfort Charlotte? My mother shot back. Liam glanced at me. Charlotte wasn't crying. She looked perfectly calm. I laughed out loud. Linda chimed in from the side. Enough. Enough. We all know the wedding's off now. Think about the dowry. And come back when you've made up your mind. She tried to close the door. My father stuck his foot in the threshold. If you don't let my daughter get her documents today, I'm taking you to court. Frank put down his tea slowly. Go ahead. Sue us. The lawsuit will take 2 or 3 years. Your daughter can forget about getting her documents back in the meantime. She's starting a new job soon. Her ID. Her degree thing's in there. Let's see who can wait longer. I stood in the hallway, staring at this family. They'd planned everything. Less than 2 hours had passed since the wedding fell apart, and they'd already changed the passcode, locked up my things, and rehearsed their lines. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was a calculated plan the entire family had made together. My mother's eyes were red and swollen, her voice cracking. How could you do this? She's just a girl. What do you want with her documents? Linda turned her face away. She's the one who called off the wedding, not us. The dowry was for the wedding. If there's no wedding, the dowry stays. She paused, then added, besides, you made my son get down on one knee and beg you today. He's already humiliated enough. A little compensation isn't too much to ask. My father was so angry he could barely speak, his whole body shaking. I put my hand on his arm. Dad. Don't argue with them. The door slammed shut in my face. The hallway fell silent, except for the sound of our breathing. My mother leaned against the wall, her lips as white as paper. My father stood frozen with his hand still on the door, his arm hanging in the air for a long moment before he slowly lowered it. Let's go, I said. My father turned to look at me. We're just going to leave your things. We'll get them back, just not today. I took his and my mother's hands and led them toward the elevator. My mother's hand was ice cold, gripping mine so tight it hurt. When we got outside the apartment complex, my father stood on the sidewalk and took a deep breath. Let's go home, he said. We lived in an old residential neighborhood in Southside, on the 6th floor of a building with no elevator. My mother had to stop and catch her breath on every landing. She could usually climb the stairs without stopping. That's when I noticed she was wearing a new pair of high heels, 6 inches tall, that she'd been standing in all morning. When we got inside, she kicked off her shoes, walked barefoot into the living room, and sat down on the couch, her back straight as a rod. My father went into the kitchen, poured her a glass of hot water, set it down on the coffee table in front of her, and walked out onto the balcony, slamming the sliding door shut behind him. I sat down next to my mother, saying nothing, not crying, just sitting there. My father came back in from the balcony holding a cigarette. He'd quit smoking 7 years ago. I had no idea where he'd found it. My mother saw the cigarette and froze for a second, but said nothing. My father took a drag and coughed violently. When he finished, he stubbed it out in the ashtray and sat down at the dining table, half a room away from me. I'll call a lawyer tomorrow, he said. Call one this afternoon, I said. My mother wiped her tears and looked up. Yes. This afternoon. We're not going to let them bully us like this. I pulled out my phone. It was blowing up with messages. The bridesmaids group chat was the busiest, with 99 unread messages. I opened it. Charlotte, you were amazing. Who the hell is that childhood friend anyway? Was Liam's mom telling the truth? Did they really plan to marry him to Riley all along? I almost stood up and cheered when you threw the bouquet. But seriously, what are you going to do about your things? Your documents are all there, right? I typed back. I'm figuring it out. The chat went silent for 3 seconds, then exploded again. I know a lawyer. My cousin does family law. Want me to ask him? My sister works at the police station. Should we file a report first? You should probably report your documents lost. Do you have your ID and bank cards on you? I felt inside my clutch. My phone, ID, and one bank card were all there. The makeup artist had told me to bring my clutch to hold cash gift envelopes on the wedding day. I'd barely gotten any. But it had ended up holding everything important. I'll report the documents lost tomorrow. Let's get the lawyer sorted today, I replied. I closed the group chat and opened my contacts. Scrolling down to the LS. Liam. I tapped on his profile. His latest Instagram post was from yesterday. A 9-photo grid with a picture of our wedding invitation in the center. The caption read, "Finally. The day I've been waiting for." There were over 100 likes and comments full of congratulations, which he'd replied to one by one with thank you. The latest comment, posted 3 minutes ago, was from an ID I didn't recognize. Heard the wedding went sideways. He hadn't replied yet. I backed out and opened our text history. The last message was from him at 6 o'clock that morning. "Wife, today's the day I marry you. I'm so excited I can't sleep." I hadn't replied. I scrolled up through the texts. 3 months ago, March 17th, 9:23 p.m. He'd sent a photo taken at a restaurant. 2 glasses of red wine on the table, and a person sitting across from him, only their hands visible. Their nails were painted pale pink, and a small silver ring glinted on their ring finger. His caption, "Having dinner with Riley. Haven't seen her in ages." I'd replied, "Okay, have fun." Further down, May 1st, 11:02 p.m. He'd sent a voice message. The background was loud, like a bar, and a woman's voice could be heard saying, "Liam, you'll never make it home if you keep drinking." I transcribed it. He'd said, "Charlotte, I'm out with coworkers for team building. I've had too much to drink. I'll crash at a friend's place tonight." I'd replied, "Got it. Be safe." I'd been working overtime on a project back then and hadn't thought anything of it. Looking back now, there was no doubt who that friend was. I didn't delete the text history. I took screenshots, saving them one by one to my album. Then I closed my messages and sent a text to a friend who worked in media. "Were you at the wedding today?" She replied instantly, "Yes. I filmed the whole thing. Can you send me the videos?" She sent an OK emoji, and 3 minutes later, a cloud storage link popped up. I opened it. The video started from the beginning. I was standing on the stage, my wedding dress trailing across half the floor, the officiant reciting the vows. Liam was standing across from me, holding the microphone, smiling softly. Then the music changed. It wasn't the song we'd chosen. It was a soft instrumental piece I'd never heard before. He pulled a ring box out of his pocket and turned toward the side of the stage. The camera followed him. Riley was standing in the front row, surrounded by bridesmaids, her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide. Liam spoke into the microphone. The crowd gasped. Riley held out her hand. He slipped the ring onto her finger. The officiant tried to smooth things over. Every single person in the room turned to look at me. I stood there, holding my bridal bouquet, a faint smile still on my lips that I hadn't had time to wipe away. Then the smile slowly faded. I'd put up with everything for 3 years. I'd put up with him bringing Riley up in every argument. I'd put up with him calling Riley every time he got drunk. I'd even put up with him bringing her along for the annual family grave visiting tradition. He said she was like a sister to him. I said okay. He said their parents knew each other, that they were like family. I said okay. He said I was being unreasonable, that she was alone in the city with no boyfriend. So what was wrong with him taking care of her a little? I said okay. I said okay to everything because I thought being in love meant being understanding, giving him space, and being the perfect, mature girlfriend in front of his family and friends. I thought being understanding would earn me his love and respect. Instead, he'd put a ring on another woman's finger in front of 600 people at my own wedding. I closed the video and sent a message back to my media friend. "Can I post this video?" She said 3 exclamation points. You're going to post it? Yes. Think carefully. Once you post this, it won't just be between your two families. Everyone we know will see it. I know. She was silent for a minute, then replied, I've got your back if anything happens. I edited the video, cutting out the normal wedding ceremony at the beginning, leaving only the 5 minutes from when the music changed to when I threw my bouquet on the ground. I didn't post it right away, because there was a knock on the door. My mother opened it. Standing there was Zoe, the most outspoken of my bridesmaids and my college roommate. We'd stayed close after graduation. She'd been the one yelling at the Liams on stage earlier that day. She was still wearing her champagne-colored bridesmaid dress and carrying 2 large plastic bags, one full of fruit, the other full of takeout. Aunt Martha, Uncle Robert, I knew you wouldn't have eaten much. I brought some porridge and dishes. She opened the containers one by one and set them on the dining table. My mother thanked her, her eyes filling with tears again. Zoe pushed her into a chair, then pulled me up from the couch, shoving a bowl of porridge into each of our hands. Eat. You need your strength to deal with that asshole. I picked up the bowl and took a sip. It was preserved egg and pork rice porridge. Hot. Perfectly seasoned. I didn't realize how hungry I was until my stomach started growling. Zoe sat across from me, watching me eat. I added the lawyer on WhatsApp. I'll send you his contact. You two can talk. She sent me a business card. Ethan Hale, Hale Associates. 7 years of experience, specializing in family and marriage disputes. I sent a friend request with the note. Referred by Zoe. Wedding dispute. He accepted 5 seconds later. Ethan sent a message. Zoe told me a bit about your situation. When can we talk? I checked the time. 3:30 p.m. Anytime. Phone call. Is that convenient? Yes. The phone rang. His voice was that of a man in his early 30s, calm and measured. Tell me what happened. I told him everything, from the wedding ceremony to being locked out of the apartment. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end. Then he said, Do you have evidence for everything you just told me? I checked the cloud storage link. 60 gigabytes of video files, taken every few minutes from the start of the wedding to the end. Zoe had filmed the entire thing. I have videos. Text history. Yes. An inventory of the items in the apartment. I have photos from when we were renovating. His voice became more confident. Good. Let's break this down. First, what happened at the wedding constitutes defamation and emotional distress. You can sue for damages. Second, detaining your personal belongings is unlawful detainment. In severe cases, it can be a criminal offense. Third, the dowry issue. Your father offered to return the bride price if they returned your dowry, and they refused, demanding you leave the dowry to get your things back. That's extortion. Hearing those 3 words, I felt the heavy weight that had been sitting on my chest all day finally crack. What do we do now? First, file a police report. Make a detailed inventory of all your property and personal items. Get your text history and videos notarized as evidence. Then, send them a legal demand letter. I hung up the phone and went over the steps Ethan had outlined in my head. Then I looked up. Zoe was talking to my mother, and whatever she'd said had made my mother smile, even if it was a weak one. My father was sitting on the couch, talking on the phone to someone. I walked over to him. When he hung up, I asked, Who was that? Your uncle. He put down his phone. He knows some people back home, just in case the Liams try to cause trouble. My throat tightened. They'd thought of everything, even the worst-case scenario. Dad, I need to file a police report, I said. He looked at me and nodded. For unlawful detainment. Then we'll have the lawyer send them a demand letter. If that doesn't work, we'll sue. He pushed the ashtray aside. Come on, I'll go with you. The first place we went was the local police precinct. The officer on duty was a woman in her 40s. She listened to my story, frowning as she typed away on her computer. What's the approximate value of the items? Replacing the documents will cost a few $100s. The gold jewelry set was my mother's heirloom, so it has sentimental value. The cash and car dowry are $50,000 and $30,000 respectively. The dowry hasn't been given yet. Right. She looked up at me. No. But they're holding my documents hostage and demanding the dowry in exchange for them. She stopped typing and stared at me like I'd just told her the sky was green. Are you serious? She printed out the police report, had me sign and fingerprint it, and handed me the receipt. Keep this. If you need us to come out or check security footage, bring this with you. Thank you. She waved a hand. You did the right thing. Honey, that man wasn't worth marrying. When we left the police station, the sky was starting to get dark. Streetlights flickered on one by one. My father stood on the sidewalk and lit his second cigarette. The end glowed bright for a second, then faded. Hungry? He asked. No. Zoe's porridge was enough. He stubbed out the cigarette and threw the butt in a nearby trash can. Then let's go back to the apartment. I froze. They won't open the door now. Then we wait. We wait until they open the door. He tapped his phone. I had the property management check the security cameras. They're all inside. I told the lawyer to meet us there in an hour. I glanced back at the blue police sign behind us. Okay. By the time we got to the apartment complex, it was completely dark. We stood in front of the door. My father rang the doorbell. No answer. He knocked. No answer. He pressed his ear to the door. We could hear the TV blaring inside. Some loud game show. They're home, he said, straightening up. He called the property management office. This is Robert Shun. There's a dispute at the apartment across from mine. I need you to send someone to open the door and assist the police with their investigation. He listened for a minute, then hung up. Less than 5 minutes later, the property manager and the head of security arrived. The property manager was a chubby middle-aged man in an ill-fitting uniform, looking uncomfortable. Mr. Shen, we can't just open someone's private residence like that. Private residence. My father stared at him. This is my daughter's wedding apartment. The deed might be in Liam's name, but half the things inside were paid for by my family. What right do you have to keep us out? The security guard stood there awkwardly, not wanting to take sides. Just then, the elevator doors opened. Ethan walked out carrying a briefcase. He glanced around, then pulled a document out of his bag. I'm Charlotte Shen's attorney. This is my bar card and power of attorney. He handed the documents to the property manager. My client filed a police report this afternoon, under state trespassing and theft statutes. Unlawfully detaining personal property is illegal. You are obligated to cooperate. The property manager's face turned pale. He flipped through the documents several times, then handed them back to Ethan and stepped back. We still can't force the door open. Why don't you call the police and have them do it? Ethan didn't argue. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911. We didn't have to wait long for the police, less than 20 minutes. The peephole on the Liam's door was dark the entire time. Liam had covered it from the inside. 2 police officers arrived. A young man and an older woman in her 40s. They looked at my police report and Ethan's demand letter, then exchanged a glance. The older officer walked up to the door and knocked 3 times. Police, open the door. We need to talk to you about a dispute. The TV inside went silent. After a long moment, the door opened. Frank was standing there, with Linda behind him, and Liam behind her. Their dining table was set with 4 dishes and a pot of soup, still steaming. They'd been in the middle of dinner. I glanced inside. There were 2 new pairs of women's slippers by the couch, and a pink thermos on the coffee table. Liam's face paled when he saw the crowd outside the door. Charlotte, you called the police. I ignored him and held up my police report. I'm here to get my things. Linda tried to rush forward, but the older officer gave her a look that stopped her in her tracks. She has every right to get her personal documents and belongings. You have no right to detain them. Frank's face darkened. Officer, there's more to this story. More to what? The older officer cut him off. Detaining someone's documents is a misdemeanor at best and a felony at worst. You should think carefully about what you're doing. Frank fell silent. Liam stepped back, avoiding my eyes. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open. My photo was still on the nightstand, but next to the frame was a bottle of perfume. It wasn't mine. I opened the closet door. All my clothes had been dumped into storage bins at the bottom. Crumpled and wrinkled, like someone had ripped them off the hangers and thrown them in. Hanging in their place were several women's coats I'd never seen before, still with the tags on. I knelt down and started pulling things out of the storage bins one by one. My degree, my ID, my graduation photos, they were all under a winter coat. The corners bent. The rosewood box my mother had given me for the gold jewelry had been in the bottom drawer of the nightstand. It wasn't there anymore. I pulled out all 3 drawers and emptied them onto the floor. Nothing. My heart sank. Mom! I shouted into the living room. Where's the gold jewelry set? My mother rushed into the bedroom and started searching with me, her face getting darker by the second. She ran out into the hallway and stared at the 3 Liams. Where is my daughter's gold jewelry? The full set bracelet, necklace, earrings, ring in the rosewood box. Who took it? Linda turned her face away. I didn't see it. You didn't see it. My mother's voice was shrill with anger. My daughter put it there herself when she moved in. Don't lie to me. The older officer stood beside her, her eyes fixed on Liam. Young man, tell the truth. Liam's Adam's apple bobbed up and down. After a long moment, he mumbled, I don't know. My mom probably put it somewhere. Linda opened her mouth to speak, but the older officer held up a hand to stop her. Still staring at Liam, tell your mother to give it back. Liam walked over to his mother and whispered something in her ear. Linda glared at him, then reluctantly turned and went into the master bedroom. She came back carrying the rosewood box, which she'd pulled out of a storage bag on the top shelf of the closet. I took it and opened it. Empty. The gold velvet lining had circular indentations where the jewelry had been, but nothing was there. Where are they? I stared at her. She crossed her arms. I put them somewhere safe. I forgot where. The older officer took a step forward. Ma'am, I'm going to say this one last time. If you give them back now, we can resolve this as a civil dispute. If you don't, that's theft. And the consequences will be serious. Linda's lips trembled. She turned and went back into the bedroom. She was gone for a long time. When she came back, she was holding a clear plastic grocery bag, which crinkled as she handed it to me. I opened it. The gold jewelry was crumpled into a ball inside. The necklace was tied in a tight knot. The ring was bent out of shape, and one of the earrings was missing its back. My mother swayed on her feet when she saw the state of the jewelry. My father put his arm around her, his lips pressed into a thin line. I tied the plastic bag closed and held it to my chest, then turned to finish packing the rest of my things. Clothes, cosmetics, books, documents, photo frames, gifts from friends. My work hard drive. I packed everything into 5 large boxes. My father borrowed a cart from the security guard and stacked the boxes high. As we were leaving, I glanced back at the apartment. A large wedding photo was still hanging on the living room wall, the red background that Liam had loved so much. He was standing behind me, his arms around my waist, his chin resting on my shoulder, smiling brightly. I turned away and walked out without looking back. In the taxi, I pressed send on the 5-minute video. 10 minutes later, 3,000 shares. 30 minutes later, 100,000 views. That night, a new hashtag appeared at the bottom of the trending topics list. Groom puts ring on childhood friend at wedding. The comments section exploded. At 2 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Liam. It rang for a long time. I didn't answer. He called again. Still no answer. When he called a third time, I picked up. He was breathing heavily, his voice raw and broken, like he'd been crying for hours. Charlotte, are you insane? You posted that video online. My parents have been doxxed. Riley's workplace was leaked. Are you happy now? Everything I posted is true. He was silent for a moment. Then his voice dropped, like he was trying to control himself. Delete the video. We can talk this out. There's nothing to talk about. You have to ruin everything, don't you? His voice rose again. 3 years together. Don't you care about us at all? Did you care about me when you put that ring on her finger? He didn't say anything. I hung up the phone, turned it off, and stuffed it under my pillow. In the darkness, a car drove past the building, its headlights sweeping across the ceiling for a second before fading away. I closed my eyes. The image that kept replaying in my head wasn't the wedding. It was 3 years ago, when we'd first started dating. He'd stood outside my building holding a bouquet of sunflowers, shouting my name up to the 6th floor. My mother had poked her head out of the kitchen and said, "That boy's nice." Loud voice. "Must be healthy." My father had said, "What does a loud voice have to do with being healthy?" My mother had said, "The donkey on my uncle's farm back home had a loud voice and could work all morning without stopping." My father's face had been priceless, and Liam had shouted even louder from below. I'd laughed so hard I'd almost fallen out the window. Back then, I'd thought he was the one. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was shining on my pillow. I turned on my phone. It pinged with messages for several minutes straight. Over 300 unread messages. Half were people calling Liam an asshole. Half were asking if I was okay. There were also a dozen messages from Liam himself. The last one was sent at 4:30 a.m. "Charlotte, you'll regret this." I stared at the message for a minute, then swiped it away to check Zoe's messages. "The lawyer wants you to come to the firm today to sign the official retainer agreement." Also, Liam's mom sent Riley a text this morning. Someone leaked the screenshot. She attached a screenshot. "Riley, don't worry. Liam and that woman are completely done. Once I sort this out, Liam will marry you." Sent at 7:03 a.m. that morning. I saved the screenshot to my album. I now had 47 pieces of evidence saved there. With each one, the last remaining bit of affection I had for Liam crumbled a little more. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, I was sitting in Ethan's office. The law firm was on the 26th floor of a skyscraper in the financial district. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the entire city skyline, the sun glinting off the glass. Ethan pushed the retainer agreement across the desk to me. 3 copies, which I'd already signed. He flipped through the materials I'd given him, spreading out the text screenshots, videos, photos of the damaged gold jewelry, and the police report on the desk. He pushed his glasses up. "The evidence chain is very strong. First, the public defamation and emotional distress. With 600 witnesses and the video going viral, the impact is significant. Second, the unlawful detainment of your property. We have clear evidence of what was taken and when. Third." He paused and looked at me. "How far do you want to take this?" I thought for a second. "I want everything that's mine back. And I want them to learn that there are consequences for bullying people." He nodded and turned his laptop around to show me. On the screen was the legal demand letter he'd written. "Want me to read it to you?" "Yes." He cleared his throat. "Regarding the public humiliation, defamation, unlawful detainment of personal property and dowry jewelry, and extortion of our client, we hereby demand the following. 1. Immediate return of all of our clients' personal belongings. 2. Compensation for our clients' emotional distress. 3. A public apology to eliminate the negative impact. These demands must be fulfilled within 7 days of receipt of this letter. Failure to comply will result in immediate legal action. Can you send it?" "Wait," I said. I pulled the wedding invitation out of my bag. Tucked inside was a printed financial statement. "Add this." Ethan took it and glanced at it, raising an eyebrow. "Dowry inventory." Yes. The $50,000 in cash was transferred to his account the day before the wedding. The car is in his name, but my father paid for it in full. We have the bank statements. You gave him the $50,000. His brow furrowed. Yes. He said it would be our joint savings after we got married. And the car was put in his name because he had the parking permit. Ethan took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Ms. Shen, do you know what this is called in family law?" "What?" "Premarital property fraud." He put his glasses back on and made a copy of the inventory, handing the original back to me. "Though your case is unusual, he didn't just take the money and disappear. He actually wanted to marry you." But he also wanted to make his childhood friend feel special at the wedding. He leaned back in his chair and twirled his pen. That's worse than regular fraud. I smiled faintly. Ethan added a line to the demand letter on his computer. And returned the $50,000 in premarital joint funds and the $30,000 paid for the vehicle. Then he pressed send. The second the email was sent, my phone lit up. It was Zoe calling. Charlotte. Open Twitter. It's number 8 on trending. I opened Twitter. The 8th trending topic was Liam's childhood friend speaks out. I clicked on it. Riley had posted a long thread. The photo was a selfie of her with red, puffy eyes, holding a piece of paper that said I'm sorry. The thread read, I never meant to hurt anyone. Liam and I grew up together. That ring was really just a silly promise from when we were playing house. I was touched because of our friendship. Nothing more. I'm so sorry about what happened yesterday. But I'm also suffering. My phone number was leaked. All my coworkers saw the video. And I've had to stay home from work. Charlotte. I apologize to you. But please delete the video. Don't let cyberbullying hurt more innocent people. The comments were coming in faster than I could read them. Top comment. How dare she talk about cyberbullying? Where was this concern when she was putting her hand out for the ring at someone else's wedding? Second top comment. If you're so sorry, why are you still wearing the ring in the photo? Third top comment. You should be an actress. Your performance is Oscar-worthy. Fourth top comment was from Zoe. Just 2 words. Nice try. But there were also people defending her. Some said, she already apologized. Isn't this going too far? Others said, the groom is the real villain here. Both women are victims. Someone wrote a long post arguing that Liam was clearly cheating on both of them, and we shouldn't be attacking Riley. Just as I finished reading that comment, my phone vibrated. Liam had sent me a text message. Charlotte. Riley's too scared to leave the house now. You can hate me all you want, but please leave her alone. She didn't do anything wrong. Reading that, everything finally clicked into place. He'd never thought he'd done anything wrong. He didn't think he'd hurt me. The only mistake he thought he'd made was not controlling the situation better and letting it get out of hand. He didn't think humiliating his fiancé in public was wrong. He didn't think letting his mother detain my documents was wrong. He didn't think letting his parents try to steal my dowry was wrong. The only thing he thought was wrong was that I hadn't put up with it like I always had. That I'd posted the video online. That I'd made his precious childhood friend cry. I leaned back in Ethan's office chair and asked him, is there any legal risk if I don't delete the video? As long as the video is unedited and completely factual. No. You're stating the truth. Not defaming anyone. He saw the look on my face and added, same with all the screenshots you posted. Then leave it up. I texted Liam back. You're a lot more sincere when you're begging for her than when you were on your knees begging me. He didn't reply. When I left the law firm, it was still early. The sun was warm on my skin. My father called. Your mom made slow-braised pork ribs. Come home for dinner. Okay. I hung up and hailed a taxi. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror, his eyes lingering on my face for a second. Aren't you that bride from the trending topic? So it had spread even further than I thought. Yes. You did the right thing. That man didn't deserve you. He banged on the steering wheel, his voice so loud the windows rattled. If my daughter ever went through something like that, I'd burn his whole shop down. He spent the entire drive ranting about Liam, from Midtown to Southside. When we got to my building, he even knocked $2 off the fare. Next time, pick a better man. Actually, I have a nephew. Thanks. But I'm not looking to date right now. Fair enough. Take your time. No rush. I knocked off the change for you. I walked up the stairs feeling lighter than I had the day before. The smell of slow-braised pork ribs wafted out from under the door. My mother opened it holding a spatula, her apron covered in soy sauce stains. You're back. How did it go with the lawyer? He sent the demand letter. We have 7 days to wait for their response. She nodded and turned back to the kitchen, stirring the vegetables in the wok more vigorously than usual, the spatula clanging against the metal. My father was sitting on the couch watching the news with the volume turned down. When he saw me come in, he put down the remote. "We got all your things back. The rest is just paperwork." The lawyer said the evidence is solid. "Good." He nodded. Then added after a minute, "Your mom didn't sleep a wink last night. What about you?" "I didn't sleep much either." He smiled faintly, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "I couldn't stop thinking about that Liam kid owing us $80,000. Dinner was quiet. My mother had made 4 dishes: slow-braised pork ribs, stir-fried greens, cucumber salad, and seaweed egg drop soup. Between the 3 of us, we ate less than half of what she'd made. Halfway through dinner, my mother suddenly put down her chopsticks. That childhood friend posted that thread today. I saw some people are feeling sorry for her. Who cares what other people think?" my father said, not looking up from his bowl. "I was just thinking," my mother said. "What does she even get out of this?" I wondered the same thing. I scrolled through Riley's Instagram. She didn't post much. Just a few times a month, mostly food photos, selfies, and the occasional repost from a relationship blogger. There was a photo of her with a guy, his face completely blurred out. But I recognized the gray hoodie, the white sneakers, the way he was standing. It was Liam. That hoodie had cost me over $800. I'd saved up for 2 months skipping bubble tea to buy it for his birthday. I saved the photo to my evidence folder. Then I turned off my phone and closed my eyes. It started raining that night. Soft patters against the window. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. The rain had stopped. The city lights cast long shadows on the ceiling. The day we got the money back was overcast. Ethan called me while I was unpacking the 5 boxes at home. My mother was folding my clothes beside me, smoothing out each one carefully, just like she used to when I was little. Liam's side called. "They want to settle." I put the phone on speaker and set it on the coffee table. "How much?" "Full amount. $80,000. Every penny. They won't agree to the emotional distress damages, though. They said if we push for that, they'll take it to court." Ethan paused. "My advice is to take the settlement. Litigation takes too long, and there are too many variables." My mother stopped folding clothes midair and looked at me. I thought for 3 seconds. "Okay, when will the money be transferred?" "By the end of today. The condition is that you post a statement on Twitter saying the matter has been resolved and asking people to stop harassing the Liams." "Fine." I agreed without hesitation. It wasn't because I'd suddenly forgiven them. It was because 50,000 of that 80,000 was my money, and 30,000 was my father's. I couldn't waste my parents' hard-earned money fighting someone who wasn't worth it. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, the bank transfer notification came through. My father checked his phone, then put it back in his pocket. His face unreadable. He was silent for a long time, then finally said, "Good. It's over." I posted the statement as agreed. The photo was the bank transfer screenshot. The caption was just one sentence: "The matter has been resolved. Thank you for your concern." The comments were mixed. Some said, "That's it." Others said, "Good for you for standing up for yourself." Most said, "I hope we never have to hear about those 2 again." I closed Twitter and went into the kitchen to get my mother a glass of water. I thought that would be the end of it, but I'd underestimated how long the internet remembers things. After I posted my statement, the conversation online didn't die down. It just shifted from condemning Liam to exposing him. The first thing to go was his job. Liam worked as an operations manager at an internet company. 3 days after the video went viral, someone noticed his LinkedIn profile had been viewed over 10,000 times, and the comments section was full of people calling him out. People started sending messages to his company's official account, attaching the wedding video and asking if this was the kind of person they wanted in management. HR called him. According to a former coworker who told me later, HR said, "The company is in the middle of a funding round. We can't afford this kind of negative press. Resign voluntarily, and we'll let you leave with some dignity." He refused, saying he'd rather be fired and get severance. HR said fine. They fired him for gross misconduct and damaging the company's reputation. No severance. That day, He posted a single line on Instagram. 6 years. From intern to manager. Destroyed in 3 days. The photo was his empty desk, with only a dying potted plant left behind. I saw it. Didn't like it. Didn't comment. And scrolled past. Then it was Riley's turn. Her tearful Twitter thread hadn't won her any sympathy. If anything, it had made people dig deeper. Someone found her old Instagram account, the one she'd used before she made her public one. It was full of photos of her and Liam, dating back 3 years, all the way up to February of that year. In almost every photo, Liam had his arm around her shoulders or her waist. One photo was dated December 23rd last year, 2 days before Christmas. The caption read, "Got my Christmas present early. Thanks, Liam." She was holding a small luxury box, the logo clearly visible. The background was a hotel room bed. There weren't many comments on that post back then. She'd replied to one friend, "He's not my boyfriend. He's just like a brother to me. He's so sweet." After her old account was exposed, Riley went completely silent. She deleted all her social media accounts, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok overnight. But she hadn't deleted them fast enough. Someone had saved all the posts from her old account and posted them online, creating a new trending topic. Riley's secret account. The most popular comment was, "She didn't apologize for what she did. She apologized for getting caught." Someone replied, "You win at reading comprehension." Another comment was from a former friend of hers, who posted anonymously saying Riley had a history of going after men who were already in relationships. The comment section blew up. "She's a serial homewrecker." Though some people still said, "Stop blaming her. The man is the real problem here." 5 days after Liam was fired, he called me. I hesitated for a second, then answered. His voice was unrecognizable, hoarse and rough, like he'd been crying and hadn't slept in days. "Charlotte, are you happy now?" I said nothing. "I lost my job. My parents can't show their faces back home." Riley's mom called me and yelled at me for an hour, saying her daughter will never get married now. His voice started to shake. "What more do you want? Tell me. What else do you want from me? Did you ever stop to think about what I wanted when you put that ring on her finger at my wedding?" There was a long silence on the other end. So long I thought he'd hung up. It was just a... "Don't say it was a joke." I cut him off. "If you think that was just a joke, then everything that's happened to you is just a joke too. It's not a funny joke. Mine wasn't either," I said. He fell silent. I hung up the phone. Then I blocked his number. The most absurd thing in the world is that people who hurt others always expect their victims to be forgiving. But when it happens to them, they can't handle even the smallest criticism. My mother made slow braised pork belly again that night. Halfway through dinner, she suddenly said, "I heard Liam lost his job." "Ma'am, he deserved it." My father chimed in from across the table. "Eat. Don't talk about him." My mother smiled and put a piece of pork in my bowl. "You're right. The food's getting cold." I chewed the pork slowly, and suddenly remembered the first time Liam had come over for dinner. My mother had made slow braised pork belly then too, and he'd eaten almost the entire plate, saying over and over how delicious it was. Back then, my mother had smiled so brightly. Now, when she said his name, her voice was as cold as if she were talking about a stranger. No, colder than a stranger, like someone she'd never met and never wanted to meet. The wind blew the sheer curtains in the window, lifting them gently before letting them fall. I bowed my head and finished every last bite of rice in my bowl.